What's going on, guys? Welcome to Comic Island. My name is Joey, and today I'm doing a part 2 to my very first top 10 video. So about a year ago, I went over my favorite top 10 incarnations of Superman. I know some of these guys aren't incarnations, but rather they're individuals that wear the S sigil and have a striking resemblance to the Man of Steel. So this video will have the same rules as the first. Alrighty, enough talk. Let's get into my top 10 incarnations of Superman part 2. It is World War II, and the scientists from the government are working on a super soldier formula to transform a man into a weapon using samples from an alien corpse. Clark Kent, a volunteer for the super soldier program, accepts the procedure. The mixture of the formula and the solar radiation gave Kent incredible abilities and powers resembling our favorite Man of Steel. Clark's new abilities were vital to winning the war against Hitler and his Nazi regime. Then came the rise of Ultra Metallo, a massive robot later revealed to be sent by Lex Luthor to go to war with the super soldier. Clark Kent would sacrifice himself to take down Ultra Metallo. We would see the two titans sink beneath the icy waters in the northern Atlantic Ocean. 50 years after the soldiers battle with Ultra Metallo, the JLA discovers Clark's frozen body. After being thawed, he joins the JLA on their crusade for justice. Coming from an alternate Earth, this Superman was driven by the loss of his teammate The Flash by the hands of the newly elected President Lex Luthor. Well, things didn't go the way Luthor wanted. After President Luthor's assassination, the Justice Lords spent the next 2 years imposing their brand of peace on the civilians of their world. Any villain unredeemable would face Superman's lobotomy treatment, and the world would be this Man of Steel's dream of a crime-free society. After discovering alternate Earths, Superman along with the Justice Lords would witness a world where their teammate The Flash was still alive and their counterparts still in a fight for peace and justice. The Lords would impose their version of peace onto this alternate world and go toe-to-toe with the League. At the end, the League won and sent the Lords back to their reality. But what if the JLA had lost their Flash? Is the Justice Lord that much different from the Justice League? Superman X, aka Kal-El, is born in the 41st century and is a clone of the original Man of Steel. Created from DNA samples, Superman X is genetically conceived to possess all of the original strength but none of his weaknesses. Unlike the original, Superman X is not vulnerable to the effects of kryptonite, but rather, his body produces the K radiation, which he could channel and project in the form of concentrated blasts of energy from his hands. Kal-El would discover that his sole existence is to save the galaxy from the tyranny of a bloodthirsty warlord known as Imperiex, but he would also discover that he couldn't save his galaxy in the 41st century and would travel back to the 31st century to join the League of Superheroes and to continue his mission to destroy his nemesis. Kal-El is a very aggressive incarnation of Superman. He is far more cold-blooded and only needed the League as long as they can help him kill Imperiex. In one instance, Superman X would be willing to allow a Legion to die as long as he can secure a kill from his target, but he would meet the man that he was cloned from, and after learning from the Legions, Superman X would slowly change his mindset to show a more empathetic side. Moments before the destruction of Krypton, Val Zod, Kara, his foster brother, and another child managed to escape on a ship thanks to Jor-El and Elara. Through his ship, Val was educated by his parents' knowledge recorded on the capsule. He learned that violence was not the answer to overcome issues. This early education drove him into becoming a pacifist. Arriving on Earth, Val Zod was secluded from the public until the New Wonders found him to be used against a brainwashed Superman. After the evil Superman was defeated, Val Zod became the second person to take on the title of Superman. He would later overcome his pacifist nature and embrace his Kryptonian powers to protect his friends from Darkseid, and would play a pivotal role in the Convergence event of 2015. In the 31st century, Cadmus would recreate their version of the Justice League using DNA samples from the famous group from the 21st century. The Superman created is an arrogant, self-centered a-hole who consistently bickers with his team. In the pages of the Justice League 3000, we get to see what happens if we get a Superman without his Kent parent upbringings. You won't get the legendary friendship between Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne in this story either, but rather, these two despises each other. To make matters worse, this incarnation of Batman consistently refers to Superman as Clark Kent, which clearly aggravates the future Man of Steel. It is later revealed that Superman, along with his team, are parasites that killed their host body in order to survive. But the procedure was not done properly, which leaves out a lot of the original Man of Steel's memories and upbringings. The procedure also left out Superman's iconic flight powers. Throughout his journey in the New World, underneath his self-centered college bullying antics, Superman 3K eventually started to show his humanity and his true hero's heart as he teams up with the Justice League 3K to battle against the villains of the 31st century. A Kryptonian named Kal-El, also known as Superman, is the President of the United States. On this Earth, he became Superman in addition to becoming the President. It is likely that he is native to Vathlo Island of Krypton due to his reference to the word Vathlo. Calvin Ellis operates from the White House, where Brainiac serves as his personal computer and even covers for him while he does his superhero duties. In the story arc Final Crisis, Calvin Ellis joins his Superman counterparts to battle the vampire god Mandrake and later help to stabilize conditions on New Earth. Calvin Ellis returns in the New 52 and again is drawn to multiversal problems as he is called upon again and joins Captain Carrot and other heroes from parallel Earths to help Nix Yuatan, a godlike figure and the last of the monikers, because again the multiverse is in peril. This Superman made it onto the list because of how he was created. Grant Morrison drew direct inspiration from Muhammad Ali and the 43rd President of the United States, Barack Obama. So if you ever wondered what Barack would do with Superman's powers, then keep your eye out for Calvin Ellis, aka Kal-El, aka the Superman from Earth 23. In this universe, Luthor, one of Superman's greatest foes, has finally achieved his goal and gave Kal-El only one more year left to live. You see, in this story, Luthor exposed Superman to an abundance of solar radiation. This would give him an enormous amount of power, but is also killing him at the same time. We get taken on the day in the life of the clumsy Clark Kent. Even when he dons the costume and cape, Kal-El keeps the crazy world of superheroes grounded, but not having to show off all of the crazy muscles that we all know he has. In the All-Star Superman, we see Kal go through various adventures from exposing his identity to the love of his life, to an arm wrestling match with Atlas and Samson, meeting the Superman squad and his distant descendant Kal Kent, and even meeting his much older self who has the powers of a god. In this story, he even battles a younger form of Solaris and eventually goes up against his longtime nemesis Lex Luthor. This is as much as I want to say because I want you to check out this wonderful story for yourself if you haven't done so yet. Writer Grant Morrison, without the burden of continuity, gave us a fresh and modern take on the last son of Krypton, while keeping many essential core elements of this superhero as he lives out his life, believing that he has only 1 year left to live. This series was met with a lot of positive reception and is widely considered as one of the best Superman stories of all time. Imagine if we took our standard farm boy from Smallville, Kansas, allow him to live out his life and excel at everything he did. Fast forward to an adult Superman. It is now years after his longest friend has died from old age. As a matter of fact, everyone he ever knew and loved had died from old age, but Kal-El is still at his prime, no pun intended. The vast Kryptonian powers that served to make him Superman also made him practically immortal. After losing all of his closest friends and loved ones, including his wife Lois Lane, Clark still defends his home planet until the end of the 21st century. It is said that he passed on the responsibilities of being Superman to his heir, Superman Secundus, and created the Superman dynasty. Kal left Earth and explored the universe while gaining new powers and abilities. It is believed that he even broke through the Source Wall, a barrier that covers the entire universe. After studying under the Source itself, Kal has gained an untold amount of power. The true extent of his newfound abilities he received from the Source are unknown. Skip to the 700th century, and Kal has finally returned home. He formed a covenant with his descendants and would bestow onto them a small fraction of his power as long as they serve him and defend the world for truth and justice. His newfound abilities, albeit unexplained, has given him the powers of his lineage and magnified them with his own power. For example, the Superman of the 67th century married the Queen of the 5th Dimension, which in turn gave Kal-El the powers of the 5th dimensional imp, Mr. Mxyzptlk. After imbuing his dynasty with a fraction of his powers, Kal retreated to his new fortress of solitude, the yellow sun of his adopted home of Earth. He is Superman Prime, Kal-El, the last son of Krypton, the man that founded the Superman dynasty, and the father to all who calls himself Superman. And after spending 100 centuries in the core of the sun, the farm boy from Smallville, who rose into a godly figure, is finally ready to return home. Getting his first big break in the 1978 movie self-titled Superman, Christopher Reeves has gone down in history as the most iconic man who portrayed the last son of Krypton. The film was a success both commercially and critically. 3 more Superman sequels came after the first, also starring Christopher Reeves as the Man of Steel. In 1995, he became paralyzed following a horse riding accident. He founded the Reeve Paralysis Foundation in 1998 to promote research on spinal cord injuries. In 2004, Christopher Reeves died from cardiac arrest, but his legacy as Clark Kent's Superman will live on. This incarnation of Superman is often used by writers and directors as inspiration when writing a Superman story. Christopher Reeves has done such a great job at bringing the Man of Steel to life, a true testament of a well-mannered farm boy with godlike powers growing up and inspiring an entire world to seek out justice and fight for what's right. Laura and David Kent, a farm couple living in Pickettsville, Kansas, named their child Clark after the comic book superhero Superman. Young Clark grew up resenting the joke, but kept his temper in check. You see, this Clark Kent is very much like Superboy Prime, in the sense that he came from the same type of world where superheroes are only portrayed in comic books. But unlike Prime, this Clark Kent is very mild-mannered and truly cares for others. One day, after a tough day at school, Clark retreats to his fortress of solitude, aka his broken down farm tractor, for some alone time. One night, after waking up from a nap, he finds himself floating in mid-air and discovers that he can do things that resemble the powers of the famous superhero. His antics eventually caught the eye of the public, even though Clark tries his best to evade the limelight. In his adulthood, he continues to save lives while wearing a Superman costume. You see, anyone that manages to see Clark in action would report it as seeing Superman. Any report of Superman now falls under the realm of Elvis or Tupac sightings, but the government knows of his existence. After many years of being chased by the government, Clark decides to offer them a deal. Leave him and his family alone, and he will offer his services in emergencies to save lives. The story continues, but that's enough spoilers for now. This incarnation of Superman has undefined powers. He never got to know his origins. Most powers do resemble his comic book counterpart, but for instance, the sun does not rejuvenate his powers, and he can draw blood and cut his hair like any average person. This 4-issue story arc gave us a wonderful look into the life of a man that grew up in the real world with real-world problems, but add on his powers of the Man of Steel. I highly recommend reading this book if you haven't done so yet. Alrighty guys, so thank you so much for watching my top 10 incarnations of Superman Part 2. As you guys may know, I'm a huge fan of the multiverse. This opens up a realm of possibilities where superheroes are actually out there in the multiverse saving their universe. I highly doubt there is such a thing, but it's always fun to daydream. I recommend checking out my very first Incarnations of Superman Part 1 if you haven't done so yet by clicking here. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time in another Comic Island video.